As a parent, I take as one of my sacred duties is to embarrass my children as much as possible.
Oh yeah.
Unfortunately, they tend to reciprocate. Well, it was a busy little time in my life. I started in 1971, middle of 1971. Personally, I was living in Pretoria before, and I went to Pretoria Boys High School, which was a lovely school, a nice old school like SACS. And my parents were divorced. My dad remarried, and he decided to make a fresh start and brought his family down to Cape Town. Of course, I chose the best school I could possibly find and came to SACS, which happened to be just down the road from where we lived. And uh, he unfortunately subsequently about a year later died in the middle of when I was in the middle of standard 9. I think probably kids probably remember that. I was somewhat hard pressed for a while, but survived that and finished and matriculated as we all did in 73. I remember going to school. The very first beginning at the school was quite an interesting time for me because I'd been quite a geek at Boys High in Pretoria, and kind of part of a small group, and decided, screw this, I don't want to be a geek anymore. I want to be amongst the cool kids. So I try to make friends with people like you and Mike Canty, all the bad boys in the class. And I remember the very first day I got to school, we were in Jock Campbell's class, Latin, I believe. And somebody kind of come upon the wonderful idea of let's pass a brick around the classroom from desk to desk. You do these things. We're not quite sure why we did it. But of course, being the new boy, I was sitting in the front row and I was challenged, and I kind of looked around and said, okay, I'm going to put the brick on Jock Campbell's desk. And I goddamn did. Of course, he didn't notice it, which took all the point out of the whole thing. But that was my introduction to the school. Okay, fine. I want to be a little bit more naughty than I was before. And what I really liked, so many characters of this school and so many people who almost glowed with life. Everybody basically in our class. We had a sort of special aura about that class. I think it was maybe everybody thinks this about their class. I think everybody in the class was very bright, young, filled with vim and vigor, out there to challenge life and challenging life. And so many seminal moments happened. I learned a love of English through Mr. Brown, who would read poems, and I still can quote them today. That which we are, one equal temper of heroic hearts made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. Except he screwed up the last line. He said, instead of to strive, to seek, he said to streak, which of course, a bunch of boys caused us to crack up. There was a lot of laughter in the class. Some of it, the kind of casual cruelty of young boys. And it was not a snowflake era. I look at my kids in school and how sensitive they are to each other, and maybe because they're girls. We lived quite a rough, hard life. I think 50 years ago, frankly, that was the life. Life was a bit more, it was the veneer on civilization, the veneer of civilization wasn't quite as thick as it is today. We did and said things very directly, and maybe that's a South African thing. We just, sommer fok maar voort. Je weet. Anyway, I can remember playing cricket very badly, and Doug Brown also using a word, what was it? He regarded me, when a ball would come rolling at me, I would sort of fling myself at it and usually miss. And he was very impressed with my enthusiasm, if not my accuracy. It was fun. I think I managed to captain the 4th team rugby, except we only had 3 teams most of the time. So, my athletic prowess was not much to be considered. It was a lovely time because I was in a new town with a new family. We discovered going up Table Mountain. I discovered sailing. I used to sail it in the weekends at Royal Cape Yacht Club on a cutter called Active, a 50-foot boat from 1942. And I'd be seasick every time we went out, except if there was a storm, then I wouldn't be seasick. Seminal memories, just the space and the kind of life of living in a city that is probably one of the most beautiful, is arguably the most beautiful city in the world, having been to many cities around the planet. It was a mind-expanding time. Mathematics, I learned a love of mathematics. I think it was Westhuizen was the teacher. I don't remember, but I remember writing an essay on infinity. Who was it? Do you remember who the best? Oh, Holster, yeah, okay, good. Holster. Right. Kind of lovely people. Who was the Afrikaans teacher, Miss Besson or something like that? Okay, good, Miss Besson. When my father died, she showed a remarkable kind of sympathy to me. The sympathy that that sended me, oh, I'm sorry your dad's died, but like she could sort of nodded in an understanding way. She really got it what it was to have the heart of your life torn out. And so, yeah, so we continued, and I think the rough and tumble of the school helped me to get through some of those traumatic moments. I was in a new family, adjusting to a whole new family, and learning to live and love anew. There we go. I came from Pretoria Boys High School in 1971. I'd started at Pretoria Boys High School, obviously 3 years before that, 2.5 years before that, from Arcadia Primary School, which was also a very, very good school, and gained lifelong friends that still exist today. It was very interesting going to SACS and then going to Boys High. Similarities and differences. Apparent similarities, both very old schools. SACS, obviously the older school. Boys High started, I think, in 1912. Very interesting origin. Trying to, a new country, trying to create schools for the Afrikaans leaders, Afrikaans Hoërseun School, and for Boys High for the English leaders, and back in a different time in the school where there were only two races really, the Afrikaans and the English. The black people didn't really exist. Notes over here. And so they were trying to inculcate leaders and actually a wonderful effort trying to integrate these two nations that had been at war a dozen years before. Stunningly beautiful buildings on top of a hill, red brick and stone, filled with the same traditions. There would be last post played at night. You'd have your commemoration day, Memorial Day, whatever you call it. They'd raise the school flag, and usually some senior had, you raise the flag to the top of the pole, and you'd pull the rope and it flutters out, except usually some senior would tie a knot in it so it wouldn't flutter out, and you'd have to pull the whole thing down, and then it would flatter into everybody's being very solemn and trying not to snigger. And again, looking historically, like many old boys had died in various wars across time, as had at SACS. And there was a whole ethos in South Africa of that time of we were creating a new world containing white people with black servants. We were creating a whole new world. And there was an eagerness and maybe it was because I was 15 or whatever. There was an eagerness and a fullness of life where anything is possible. When you're young, anything is possible. When you're older, you realize that it was possible then, but not necessarily now. Lots of also teachers that became characters. And that's something I've noticed difference between States education, experiences with my daughters going to school, and then my education in South Africa. Teachers in South Africa were very content to be the history teacher at that school. And this was their life, and this was their love. And they existed to teach children and inculcate in them a love of learning, love of history, geography, science, mathematics, whatever it was. Not so much here. People here tend to be more socially conscious. They don't get the sense that you have these characters. So many characters at Boys High. There was Drip Henry, the history teacher, who always had a drip of sweat on the end of his nose. He was the only teacher with air conditioning in his room. Another difference between the United States and America. Well, Florida, you have to have air conditioning just to exist. Characters, as I mentioned before, Mariki Visson, Jock Campbell, Boss Whiteford. Interestingly, the headmaster at Boys High was Abernethy, and he was called the Boss. And I think at Whiteford was called Boss, or vice versa. I don't remember which, but the same appellation for the same post. Quite amusing. Areas, yeah. I think that covers Boys High. Similarities, differences. Okay, got it. I'll go for it. So, okay, let me just think a little bit. Similarities. Who loved teaching. Different buildings, different places, different kids, different lifestyle. The school was intent upon creating leaders for the world, people who cared about the world, people who wanted to make a difference, people who loved their fellow man enough to want to help him to become better persons. And that's something that has stayed with me throughout my life. I think that when I help my daughters with homework a lot, but you have to here. I do with one daughter 3 to 5 hours a day of homework with her, which is great because we sit and read books. And I've just been sitting with my other daughter reading To Kill a Mockingbird. And she settled down and she nestles in and I read to her and I explain things to her. Just did Romeo and Juliet with my other daughter. And the background I got from doing Shakespeare at Boys High and at SACS stood me in great stead. I learned, one of the lessons I learned doing King Lear at SACS was you understand every sentence. If you have to go to a dictionary for every single word, you go to that damn dictionary, you know exactly what it is he's saying, because unless you know what every word, including the small common words like it and the, but, every single word there, you don't know the import of what he's saying. It was funny going through Romeo and Juliet with my 16-year-old daughter, 15-year-old daughter, and like, Dad, that's kind of raunchy. Dad, really? He said that? My God. And the kids are probably going, oh, yeah, whatever. Like, no, it means that this goes into that, oh my God, Dad. Daddy. And we both cackle and move right on. Something I got from both schools. I had another thought there. I got lost somewhere in my tirade. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Whatever. Carry on. I'm going to circle back to doing homework with my daughter, and in fact, two little instances over here. Realized, okay, she was at a fairly easy school. She went to a fairly difficult school in ways similar to SACS and Boys High. It's called St. Paul's, a local school, and certainly the homework gradient, particularly she was in 8th grade, which is equivalent to, I don't have idea what it's equivalent to, standard 8, standard 7, standard 8. They do a lot of work because they have now then to try and get into a good high school. So they can get into a good university so they can go and work for Merrill Lynch or BlackRock or something like that. It is it's a bit of a trap, but hopefully avoid it. Amount of homework with her, helping her, absolutely thoroughly enjoying it. I came upon a cognition, a sudden realization. It ties back a lot to SACS, ties back a lot to Boys High. It's a very unfashionable word right now. It's called duty. Duty to do this. And freely accepted burden. It's used to be called the white man's burden. You want to put it in a larger political context. It is actually, if you have a privilege, it comes with it several rights granted to you, giving back. Given these privileges, doing to deserve those privileges. That's duty. Part of the bone of duty is integrity. Is like not alloying yourself to, oh my God, I don't really want to do this because I have these other things to do that are way more important. No, it's my duty to do this. I'm going to do it. And I might as well enjoy it while I'm doing it. That's the other part of it. Duty doesn't have to be a hard burden. Realize it's actually duty to in a sense, my coming generation, in a broad sense to the people we meet with, in an even broader sense to everybody we interact with in business, life, whatever, is a very light burden. Little instance, I remember walking down the corridor with my baby, my child, the first one, who never slept. She hadn't slept for 5 days, I recall. I hadn't slept for 5 days. She was fussing, she was meowing and growling and upset. And I sort of like, should only be calm if you'd walk with her. I'd stop and lean up against a wall. She'd immediately wake and, oh, no, can't do that, Daddy. Yeah, you got to keep me moving. She's 3 months older this time. The parents will know this. Every parent here will know this. Yes. I looked at her face. This was a seminal moment in my life. I looked down at her face. I'm carrying the sick, crying, mewling baby. I look into her face and suddenly something happens. I'm in her body, looking at my face, except it's not my face, it's my father's face. Father is carrying, mewling, puking me down the corridor, and he's leaning up against the wall now, mewling and puking, and won't let him sleep. and he's doing these things for me. I could never thank him for doing that. He's passed, he's gone. The only way I can thank him is to do it to my child. I can never ask for thanks to my child because I know that, well, my child will do that for her child. And so the cycle continues from thousands of generations of the past and hopefully thousands of generations into the future. And I'd like to think that that's something I got from my education at both Boys High and SACS. Duty, responsibility, integrity. Spectemur agendo. How's my pronunciation? Let us be judged by what we do. And it resounds across time, it resounds across generations, it resounds across geography. We don't live in a bubble, we don't live on our own. We are part of a vast continent. And Dunn said it very well. I think you know the quote. Never sent to know for whom the bell tolls. Well, that bell could be tolling for joy, spread the joy as well. Basically it is, but know that you have responsibilities and those various. And I don't think it was overt, the inculcation of leadership in Boys High. And I don't think it was particularly, maybe it was more at SACS, maybe I was older, but some way we were taught and what we were given had with it an inherent unspoken responsibility to return to whoever. You know, you're not supposed to, no, don't necessarily have to go out and live a life of service, but you have to live a life of service to your friends and how you deal with your clients. You treat your clients with fairness, generosity, respect. You screw up, you fix it, and you maybe fix it a little bit better than you would have before. And in fact, you do a little bit more you do more for your clients than they expect. It's a question of exchange. You don't just give them something for thing, you give them more than they expect. And from those early days through those two schools, he's like, just do a little bit more. Yeah, come on, you can do it. Your comfort is not important necessarily. What isn't is the effect you have on the world around you. I don't know, I just get excited. We have a different experience over here. I think due to the fact that there are very few South Africans around here. There's a big cohort out in Fort Lauderdale. In fact, there's a South African shop which I would visit regularly to buy biltong and boerewors, and they're nice people. And I would have thought that it would have been a South African thing. I've always thought, oh, it's a South African thing because you go to checkout, nice to the person behind the checkout. In fact, my wife's an artist and we travel a lot. We say rule number one, first rule, make friends with the security guard because you never know when you're going to need to move something in or out that doesn't necessarily have to go through the whole process of moving things in and out. You make friends with the security guard. Those people which are lowest on the quote unquote social scale need the most attention from you because they're there, they're trying to move themselves up. You want to acknowledge them and you cannot just disregard them because these people are the gears or that make the society run. You don't have your security guard, well, you've got a problem. You don't have your teller, you have a problem. You don't have the guy packing the shelves, you've got a problem. They're so fucking vital, technical term, fucking vital. They're so fucking vital to our society that they need to be acknowledged. And what does it cost? Say, hi, how you doing? Learn the name of the cashier. Emmy, how are you doing? You know, are you going to have a great weekend? You're going to have a great weekend. Good. Yeah. Thanks very much. Oh, by the way, do you have blah, blah, blah. Interact, you know, it is very easy to get people to talk about themselves. You just ask a couple of questions. So you're married, you've got a couple of kids. Oh, and then suddenly you have a common reality. You can chat about this and chat about that. And in some ways it's self-serving because this person will now do anything they can to help you out. But it's not serving because you're acknowledging that person for who they are. And if somebody talked to me, acknowledging me in my station, I would do exactly the same thing for them. And that, now that you know it, I thought that was just a South African trait. I thought it was just like, oh no, it's normal. It's not a South African trait, and South Africans overseas are a bunch of entitled assholes. That's so it's a SACS and a Boys High trait. And mind-blowing to me, and I'm so so grateful that I got given that opportunity to learn these things about how to deal with other people and how you regarded people. I mean, if guys that worked at the school, you knew their names. I still remember from Arcadia Primary School, John, George, and Jackson were the black guys that helped. And they lived down, and you had to go and call them every now and again and ask them something, like they had their families, and you'd go to watch and interact with them. It's so these people, it sounds like kind of talking down to them, not. People like this are the glue the fabric of society together. That's quite vital. And it's in fact, one should treat everybody as if one were their friend, and you will find how you treat people is how they tend to treat you, unless they're absolute assholes like me. But but how you treat other people, what comes back to you is what you put out in life. What you put out comes back to you tenfold, hundredfold. It's a Christian attitude. And maybe it came from SACS. You've just blown my mind, because I thought this was inculcated me since I was a kid. I thought everybody was like me. Anyway, just one to kind of like sort of sidebar to what you were saying, finding a school for my children. It was really hard here to find a school. The St. Paul's that my younger daughter is going to right now, and which my older daughter went to until 8th grade, very good teachers, professional teachers. They do here tend to teach to a program, and you got to get the kids through, and they got to pass this exam, they got to do this, yada yada yada. And so the character development, which somehow they managed to slip in through the cracks at SACS, there was no course in character development. It was the culture in which we lived. It was the ethos which we breathed. It was in the very air. It was in the kind of the buildings that we were in. It was the desk you touch had been run by generations of people, and it is your duty to continue on with what they were doing and make sure you came out somebody worthy of being judged by what they did. Anyway, and moving on to schools, I found a school in far away as you can from Florida as you can possibly get. It's like a full day's trip to get there in this modern day and age, called the Delphian School. They actually do this. They teach leadership, and the kids leadership. My daughter she's 14, 15 years old. They're given responsibilities. They're given hats. Like, okay, at 15, she's like, okay, your job, you're in charge of all the fans that are going to go. The school's way out in the countryside. It's at 600 acres in the middle of nowhere, at the end of wine country, which is a good thing. So your job is to all the supporters that are going to go to the basketball game this afternoon. You have to organize 2 buses. You've got to get 2 drivers. You've got to make sure all the kids get on the bus. You've got to make sure all the kids get off the bus at the end. Here's how I'll help you if you need it, but you need to do this. And they're given, and kids love responsibility. Kids love working. They love working hard. They love responsibility. Just throw this at them. Maybe there's something from SACS as well, but like they get thrown with the responsibilities right at the beginning, and they explore, learn, and do so much. It's about leadership. There are many good leaders and business people and humanity out of that school. And leadership, how do you teach leadership? I think what you do, as was done at that school and was done at SACS, you just, make people. I've discovered kind of the hard way that if you want to lead, all you have to do is, if you want people to follow you, all you have to do is lead. And you just go out and lead, and people will follow you. Because most people, with all due respect, most people are sheep. So you want to actually cause an effect in the world, well, go out and cause that effect. You want people to follow you, just go out and lead. I was on a board in the city of Clearwater. It's called the Community Development Board. We'd actually vetted development schemes coming in. And, as the chairman of the board, and he was kind of sitting in the board, and being presented to by lawyers for various hours, and we were on TV, and kind of like, it was going like, and I said, like, screw it, dude, we're going to do this. I vote yes in front of this, and for this reason, I think it's a great scheme. And everybody else is going like, okay, yes. That's the other thing, this fake English accent. And in America, that's the passport to gold, because people hear that accent and they look at him, they say like, oh my God, what he's saying must be true. I don't understand it, but it must be true because it's such a great accent. I'll vote for him. And that saved me. That's got me a lot of difficult situations, just like pulling out the like fake South African English. Oh, where are you from? From Australia? Fuck you. Sorry, no. Yeah, it's helped. So just jump in here. There's a school that works in a very interesting system, and it's called the check sheet system. You don't have the kids 30 seats 30 bums sitting in 30 seats with a teacher in front of them telling them what to do. You get a check sheet. The check sheet has one, read this, get it checked out. Somebody comes and checks, do you understand this? Item 2, you do understand. Item 2, do a drill where you show that you understand this by building a trebuchet or whatever it is. Every single item on that check sheet is signed off on. And when you end the check sheet, you've in that unit, you've gone in that unit, you do enough units together, you graduate. So what it is, isn't you just sitting there and hoping for 6 months after a year of sitting in the seat that you know mathematics. No, you've demonstrated you know mathematics because you said like, okay, good, check sheet 1, I can add A and B. Item 2, I can add A, B, and C. Item C on the check sheet, I can add, yeah, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone signed off and checked. So you're knowing as the kid's going, they're also examined at the end of the check sheet in case they missed anything. And because it's all on a check sheet, if the kid gets stuck, he's taking too long to get through this item on the check sheet, the instructor go and then say, okay, good, where's the problem? And usually the problem is just before that. And you kind of hand the problem, oh, okay, good, and things are moving. It's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant system. The only school that I know of, well, there are probably a couple like that, but this is a really good school. And the daughters are, you know, boasting, and I'm very proud of my children because we studied Romeo and Juliet, as I mentioned elsewhere, and my daughter knows that play so damn well. So now they come to casting the play, and I think, well, you should get the nurse, because the nurse is kind of funny and ditzy like you, and it's a kind of a humorous role, and you can play that very easily. And she's going, yes, daddy. And so she says like, oh, my dad calls me up. Oh, my daddy, I got a problem over here. You see, my best friend, who's this tall, beautiful blonde girl and a senior, really wanted to play Juliet because her boyfriend is playing Romeo, and they get to kiss in the last scene. But unfortunately, I've got the Juliet role. I don't know how to handle my friend. And like, oh my God, how am I going to tell her? All that learning, and she has kind of, and through this, there's kind of learned how to be that person, how to project that person, how to be that Juliet. And there's no kind of, oh my God, I've got the Juliet role, I'm the best. It's like, no, I'm worried about what my friend might think that I've got this role. And it's kind of, I did something right. I've no idea. She probably got it from my mom. Definitely. I got it from my mom. That I think maybe because we had teachers that were such great examples of leadership, of caring. They really loved, Doug Brown really loved his English. You know, Oberholster really loved his mathematics, and he got so excited and kind of spewing from the mouth, excited about the mathematics. Marieke Besson really loved Afrikaans and really loved her writings, but she really loved her kids as well. She really loved, and I think maybe that's it. Maybe the teachers there were proud to be at an honorable institution. They weren't so proud and realized that they were to be at that institution. They didn't ride on that privilege. They realized that privilege is something you work at and you work for, and privilege it's never without price. And in fact, privilege, it's kind of something that needs to be, you kind of disregard it. Oh yeah, maybe I was privileged. I wasn't privileged because boy, I had, you know, I'm really not worthy. There's a constant questioning of oneself. Am I actually worthy of all the things I have been given? And so there's a constant striving. Like, how can I make myself a little bit more worthy? How can I give some more to those people around me? How can I help somebody? You know, it's kind of, privilege is it's one thing, and the other thing, it's a burden if you regard it as a burden, but actually, along with responsibility, and integrity, it's the only way out of this morass that we find ourselves in as a society generally. Yeah, well, a couple of points over here. I've always been interested in and attempting to predict the present, the future, and my friends back there, my memory of my friends, and saying like, well, at SACS, he was a bright guy. He was an asshole. Not that much. What's going to happen to them? And this anniversary is an amazing thing for me because it's a realization of many dreams. Like, okay, good. Was I right back then? I think probably right, because most guys seem to be pretty bright, pretty intelligent, and maybe because they were friends, they were pretty smart people and pretty beautiful and lovely people. And it's going to be interesting going through the list as you have of, and as you said, they're all in leadership positions. That's very heartening, because that was my guess back then. It's like, yeah, we're special. We're gonna do some things. We're gonna shake some rafters and rattle the halls. And what you're looking for, and it's like, okay, why did this happen? Why are these people turn out? And you could, yes, we were examined, and yes, we had a very strict traditional education. Post my daughter, who's actually taught some of these leadership things, or having had this leadership stuff thrown at her and let her sink or swim. It were, and I kind of go back and kind of, I'm a US citizen right now, and I kind of look at, I study the Constitution. You have rights, responsibilities. You don't have the rights without the responsibilities. And a lot of people are all about the rights, and that's their whole entitlement bag. And then there's the other side that says, like, hang on, dude, in order to have those rights, you have to have responsibilities. And I think that was part of what, that's kind of a look at Boys High and SACS, is like, dude, you have this right. And you're told about your nanny that has to, feed your family before her family. And this gives you there's an awareness of, you have a responsibility. You've given all these gifts, rights. What are you for them? Responsibilities. And of that, kind of from a meta perspective, is like, why are we here? Why are we in this place? What are we doing? What's the life? So I can drive a Jag or a Ferrari or sail? Somebody said clearly once, we're here to help. That's all we're here to do. We're just here to help our fellow man, to make life a little bit easier for him, make life easier for ourselves as well. And we're just here to help people. And you kind of look everything through that lens, it's like, it becomes very simple. Okay, good. Well, what's my job? Okay, I go out and help people. Hopefully they pay me for it well, to keep me in the lifestyle that I deserve. But my wife is laughing at me while she's cooking lasagna. We're here. And I think kind of going down the chain over there, that's an ethos of your rights and your responsibilities. And going down the chain, well, if you're here to people, we might as well be a leader, because that's kind of how you're going to help people. And if you're everybody being as important, and the person in front is probably the most important person in the world. I've met a bunch of celebrities, and it's very interesting talking to a celebrity, a good one. You suddenly feel you're the only person in the room with them. You're like, hang on, he's actually interested in me. I'm in his space. It's a nice, big, beautiful space. And he's really interested in me. Thomas Coates, he knows me, he acknowledged me. I'm a nothing. He's a mega movie star, whatever. And cranked up to more than 10. That's what our life is and should be. We take and we love, we help everybody, we take control of it in a good way. We're there to help people. Like, okay, good. Oh, wow. Here, let me open the door for you. You go to a restaurant, there's a lady behind you. Let me open the door for you. Oh, you're struggling with a bag? Let me help you. A tiny like that makes somebody else's day. They remember that. I remember I was walking, I was walking down the street outside we have a gallery downtown, and there's a bit of trash on the ground. I picked it up, threw it in the trash bin. The guy behind me was doing a whole ethnographic survey of the local area. And he said, that's the first time I've ever seen anybody ever pick up trash from the street. This must be a wonderful place. It's like, wow, geez, okay, fine. Small things, large effects. I think I've covered it. I've been busy taking notes as you ask me questions.
Brilliant. Listen.
Absolutely. Yes. That's it. Not in like, not in any overt kind of like, these are your rights, these are responsibilities, but in a by demonstration as teachers, by the themselves, by the whole ethos that they had. The boss was the boss, and the teachers weren't buddies. Your teachers was there to teach you. They had a stature, and they presented themselves, and they walked in a certain way, and they held themselves in a certain way. And that became something that one would aspire to. These are men, and they are icons to look up to. We laugh at them sometimes, but they're okay, good. This is what real men are. This is what real men act like. And they see themselves as examples for what we should do and be. In the United States, very often the kids call them by the first name. It's like, no, that doesn't work for me. That's kind of, no. this is Miss Rose, this is Miss Jenna. You know, it doesn't work. Can you imagine going up to, we don't, Doug Brown. Hi, Doug, how you doing? It's like, get your head ripped off. Nicely. We have many, many nights of talking over here, because you bring up an interesting point. We find ourselves as a culture at the point, as the Industrial Revolution changed the landscape. You know, you look at Britain, how it went from a farm-based agricultural to suddenly you have the vast satanic mills across the hills and the whole chaos that engendered. And then the child labor laws coming in, people actually kind of trying to actually handle this, and slavery being outlawed, trying to handle the kind of like the bending of the mind that had to occur then. And if I look now, like I consider like AI, it's scary because it, you know, writes well. It might not be true, but it writes well. It kind of can be very persuasive. It's so easy to figure out stuff. And so you don't even bother to, when we want to figure out something, you went to a library and looked at a duodecimal system and tried to find some answers in a encyclopedia, and usually got distracted by the pretty girl in the seat next door to you. But, and then, you know, fast forward, Google's along and you ask Google something and Google will give you a bunch of references and you have to pick the ones you want. ChatGPT, oh dear, because that gives you regurgitated out, fully formed, like from the brow of Jove, here is your answer. Trust me, believe me, it is real. That's a very scary thing, because it takes away a lot of the human judgment. Now, how to, you know, you and I can go through a list of Google references and I can, yeah, that's crap, that's a viewpoint. Oh yeah, okay, here's the data, good. And over that and says, no, here, magically, Oracle of Delphi, here is the answer. And that's scary because it's almost a religious artifact presented to you, glowing slightly in the dark, and this is the truth. And maybe have a sense of, shit, I've been lied to, or is it really the truth? Which I think is something we as South Africans have a lot of, because we were lied to so much. You read in a newspaper, two different through it, you know, kind of many different versions of the same story, and none of which is particularly true. Now, yeah, the address. Sorry, we were dinner arrangements being made over here. You got what do you got? That's crappy wine. Don't you take a nice wine? That's fine. Oh, they all have nice wine. So, see you there, lovies. Text me your address, love. Yeah. Sorry. Completely. Yeah. Dangerous thing. This AI. The critical faculties. We have those critical faculties because we've grown up with. In South Africa, particularly a bunch of different viewpoints. You had the Progs and you had the Nats and you had the ANC. And I think part of what was interesting about growing up in South Africa, and alludes to a couple of other things I said before, is that you kind of had yourself in a lot of different viewpoints. Okay, this is the Nat viewpoint. What is that viewpoint? Let me look at the problem from this. Let me walk a mile in his shoes. Let me look in from the Prog viewpoint. Let me walk a mile in their shoes. What does a black man lying in the gutter think about this? What does kind of a rich industrialist think about? What does an American think about it? Yeah, look at a problem from many different points of view. Google has sifted those points of view, and ChatGPT has given us one point of view of the truth. Critical faculty, I don't know. I believe beings are basically good. Human beings basically want to help each other. Human beings have an infinite capacity for compassion. Human beings are, you know, we got here, yes, we cooperate, but we also cooperate because we're of compassion for each other, because we love each other. We can see the ultimate survival of the human race, and in fact, of this planet, depends to large I do, what my family does, what my group does, what mankind does, extend to the animal kingdom, physical objects. And these are an integral part of one person. I'm not separate from, again, I'm not separate from everybody else on this planet. It's our planet. It's the only planet we have right now, until Elon Musk gets to Mars, and then we'll have two planets, but we'll still have problems. So it's our planet. Might as well take responsibility for it, because we're being given responsibility for it. Unless you take those responsibility for it, you know, you're going to be washed away in the flood. Okay, good. Should I give you a quick rundown of my life? So, okay, let's do it quickly. So, finished SACS. I was a Rotary exchange student in Michigan, and I vowed I would never return to the United States. It's fucking cold, snow everywhere. There was one black Jewish family in the town. Like, where are my people? Vowed I would never. Of course, now I've been living here for 30 years. But I did a year of an exchange student, and then I got back to South Africa. I got nabbed. I was in the Air Force, and it was fine. I managed totally fine. They made me an officer for some curious reason. I have no idea fucking why. And then immediately afterwards, I went to UCT School of Architecture, which was many characters there. In many ways, an extension, as UCT is extension of SACS. Wonderful characters, learned a lot from my fellow students. It's very interesting. I think more from my fellow students than I actually learned from my teachers. And maybe that's something that happened at SACS as well. We learned from each other. We learned from, okay, well, how does Mark Widston handle this? Oh, shit, I'll never be able to do that. Let me follow Andrew Thompson. He's a much nicer guy. Or Mike Canty. Like, that guy is funny. Oh, Mike Canty and I shared, I got a beef with Mr. Canty. Mike Canty and I, we shared the General Knowledge and Intelligence Prize. We both won it at the end of the year. And you got it up to take home, put in your mantelpiece, except I was in the United States, I never got it. So like, Mike, where's my cup? Come on. And then Gary Shamovitz and Gary Shamovitz, I think I won the Latin and History Prize because there were only two of us taking Latin and history together. Sorry, Gary, I beat you that one. Around a bit. So UCT School of Architecture, graduated. I living in Pretoria at the time. Went up to Pretoria, saw her, got a job in Pretoria and later Johannesburg with a really, really good firm. Young, brash. I was the first employee of the firm and then became the first partner of that firm. We grew it from one man, two man to kind of 20 or 30 guys. And the leader of the company, that guy's name was Louis Piens, Afrikaans guy. We still, in fact, we were going out to dinner with his wife right now. Just kind of an incredible team to work for, learned a hell of a lot. But at the end of about 10 years, 10 years over there, about 1990, somewhere around there, 1991, I was hot full of the whole thing. It's kind of, I had everything. I had the blonde girlfriend, I had the red sports car convertible, I had an airplane, and you're like, no, this is not right. This is not everything. This is not me. I hot full of, but the other way is like, I'm not doing what me. So I said, okay, screw it. Sold everything and put everything in a backpack, came to the United States. Of course, what I'd sold in South Africa didn't translate to much in the United States. And I started just kind of bumming around, ended up in Florida and doing everything. I was doing graphic design and selling shit at the side of the road. Anything, I didn't care, doing demolition. I think that's a South African trait, and maybe it's a boys high SACS trait. It's like, you're not scared of hard work. You're not scared to get your hands dirty. You're not scared to take responsibility for stuff. You need to do it? Okay, good. It's not like, oh, we need to call an electrician right now because we don't, that's his job. No. Shit, let me join the wires together. If they spark a little bit, it's okay. So, and this maybe comes back to responsibility. Okay, there's a job that needs to be done. I'm here. Okay, I got the tools where I can find the tools and just make it happen. Which put me in great stead because people say, oh, okay, good. He's not scared of working. Let me abuse him. I mean, let me employ him. Anyway, after I've been here about a year and I went to this New Year's Eve party and I met this girl. I'm not like this anymore, but like, she was great. Dress really slit down the front. Like, it was wonderful. I walked into this party and I looked at her and was like, okay, good. I know what I'm doing for the rest of this lifetime. And I was instantaneous. There was no negotiation with me. I had to negotiate her a little bit. And that was many amusing stories over there. I literally moved in with her kind of about a week later and she had a pack of cigarettes because she smoked. And I said, like, honey, it's smoking or kissing. And she said, hey, and so she put the pack of Marlboros in the deep freeze just in case the kissing shit didn't work out. She'd still have the cigarettes. Anyway, so we had a long and extended youth. She is an artist and traveled a lot and did a lot of fun things because I was pretty fancy free, kind of working odd jobs here and there and working as graphic design. I could do a lot of stuff. My time was to an extent my own. And she started having success. She's a glass artist. She casts glass sculptures. What it is, you carve a shape, you have a bit of damp sand, you push the shape of the damp sand, take it out after you've packed it nice and firmly around. And essentially you just put molten glass in that hole in the sand. takes about 6 to 8 hours in a special oven. You're pouring at 2000 degrees. Days to cool down. And yeah, it's hot. And Fahrenheit. And then you mount it, display it, and hopefully sell it. She started having some success. And around this time, I made a mistake. I was doing anything other than architecture. And a friend to be building a new house for themselves. And they put their plans out proudly on the ground and say, like, yeah, look, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. And I took a look at them and said, like, well, this is great and well, but what you should do is you change this and move this around and add that over there and be much better. They kind of looked at me wide eyes. And 2 years later, I'm teams of architects again, teams of fucking architects building condo towers. Like, oh my God, no. I left South Africa to get out of this. So then it came along, and literally the company, I was a partner in the company dissolved in a month, and it was gone. Tens of millions of dollars, just bam, like that. Okay, fine. But by this time, my wife said to me, like, you've been helping me on the side. Enough of that, you need to work for me. And so we bought a trailer, and we travel around the country going to various fairs and selling her artwork. As I say, this is a really old line. I work for my wife. The pay is not great, but the benefits are wonderful. Very sweet. And so, as I said, she started more and more success. In fact, she's probably the top female cast class artist in the world. She has her own Wikipedia entry. And my job is to assist her. My job is to make sure things happen and drive shit from place to place. And I'm the guy still at the age of 67, pouring that 2000 degrees liquid molten glass into molds twice a week in a studio that's probably like 100+ degrees. And it's kept me young and fit and kind of so far unburned. And then 2 children appeared along the way. They are 13 and 16 right now, I think I mentioned before. Beautiful children. They're probably the most beautiful children you've ever seen, except for your own if you have children. And life is good. We work really, that's the other thing I mentioned before. We work really, really hard. I was in I was in California last week, Miami the weekend before. Next week, the week after next, I'm going to a show in Houston, Texas. And why not? We can. Just like work at it. We both love doing it. We each have our own very particular hats. She's the artist, very much the artist. I'm the architect in that I help her to present her work. I design the stands for them. And so we sync very well. I've learned the hard way not to tread on her hats, and she is not interested in doing the shit that I do. And so we worked out a very, very good modus operandi. And it's to be working with your wife. I mean, we're together, 4 hours out of every 24. And it's very pleasant, I kind of remember every now and again why I'm married. That's my potted history, potted pen picture.
That's my.
Well, it will fall into the wrong hands, and we will, fight the good battle. But it's interesting. I just came up with an analogy for that abductive reasoning. And here, based on my own experience, remember going to a library. Remember libraries? Where actually you're at a library or a bookstore for that, and you browse along the shelf and something catches your attention way over in right field. And there's your answer. It's not here under the Dewey Decimal System for that particular 720.94 for architecture. It's, oh wow, it's over here. That's the color I want. So maybe that's a good analogy for that ChatGPT, as you said, finding shit you didn't know was there. Yeah, it's there, but you didn't know it was there because you weren't looking over there. You were looking over here, or you were just Google was just giving you this, or you were just going to that one narrow part of the library. I remember drawing drawings on. This was fascinating. So as you draw drawings that are kind of literally, as big as the table in front of you. And sometimes if you're doing a big shopping mall, you have 8 or 10 of these stacked out. And so you're doing something over here, and you're doing something over here, and you realize, oh my God, there's something there, or this is going to affect something way over there. And when you're on a computer, you can't see that because it's just right in front of you. So we're talking about vision. We're talking about vision, being able to be bigger than yourself, talking about being able to take other people's viewpoints, be able to see things from other people's viewpoints, being kind of it's such a beautiful world. There's so much to explore, just outside and the plants and growing. There's so much to see. And I think that's some of the stuff I got from SACS, that love of, here's your environment, love it, enjoy it, know it, learn the environment, learn more from that environment, find out that environment's got to teach you. What can you give to it? What can it give back to you? And suddenly you realize the world is bigger than, when you're a teenager, your world is about this big. But then slowly the scale, there is a world out there. I think that's something that SACS taught me, is like, there is a world out there and it's our world, and we can go out and enjoy that world. And it's filled with beautiful, wonderful people and some assholes, and we can enjoy and kind of go and play in it. It's a playground. Just go out and play. Something like that.
Wow.
Oh my God. This is something that, as I said, has been 50 years in the making. And it's good to see, like, what has happened to my friends? I've lost contact with everybody since moving half a world away. And it's nice to be able to connect again, kind of close the circle. It's like, okay, good. Let's see to him. I wonder what happened to so-and-so. This way we can find out what happened to so-and-so. Okay, then I have one question before we go. First of all, I do a lot of writing as well, and I really enjoy it. And this persona, it's called Sam Hart, S-A-M-H-A-R-T, because he writes these beautiful, lush, and glowing stuff that I would never, ever admit in my real life to having written myself. It's nice having him. He gets free reign just to get very excited about shit. Anyway, but I wanted to ask you, in these reviews that you've done, was there any one moment that was an aha moment, or was like, my God, oh fuck, oh wow, I didn't know? Was there some moment that sticks out amongst all of those for you? In that vein, I remember there was a bit of bullying, and I was kind of, as anybody else, if not more guilty. I remember hanging some kid, Cromarty, out of a window by his legs and slipping, and having a teacher walk by on the outside. And somebody's holding my legs. I'm half out the window and I'm holding him upside down, and then back, and then covering maybe the same guy with suitcases, just briefcases outside a course room. The kind of casual cruelty, which kind of fills me with horror to look back on. And, apologize to whoever might have been harmed by that. And kind of in watching that child trying to regain some sort of dignity. And those are the sort of the kind of moments. And I don't know whether everybody has this, maybe not. I just specifically know, and I take responsibility for having been an absolute fucking asshole at certain times. Ask my wife. But at school, no, but at school, there were moments where I did things I was not proud of, and I still remember them to this day. We're funny. We tend to remember the times where we went against our own integrity and do things we knew we shouldn't do. We remember them over the time when we did the right thing, and maybe that kind of alludes to the fact that people are basically good. And when you do the right thing, you kind of don't really notice. When you do the wrong thing, it sticks. And so, yeah, I just want to throw that in. And then I think as well, the other part of it is if you take responsibility for it, and I guess I'm taking responsibility for right now and saying, like, I couldn't put a name there. I did the wrong thing. I apologize. If there's anything I can do to make it right, ask. And I hope you've had a great life in spite of all my assholosity. And I guess people are basically good, and when they do bad things, they remember it and they know that they shouldn't do it. And I think that is one of the things that keeps me going, is we're all basically good, and we're all trying to do our best on this planet, and some better and some less better. And we're all kind of trying to work together for ultimate survival. And you just help people as much as to the greatest extent that you possibly can. At all.
Wow. Unfortunately,
if ever in the United States, when my parents and great-grandparents came to South Africa, it was 7 days in the mailboat for a letter to get back, or 14 days in the mailboat for a letter to get back, and 14 days can come back here. It's like, and here, that was one question, one answer, 1 month.
Yeah. And
here it's like, hey, right here, right now. It's what a time to be alive, as they say. Wow, yeah, that's true. I mean, it's interesting because I mix sometimes in the art world we mixed with some of the elite, And you have no idea how much money there is out there. You go to Miami and there's row upon row of $1 million boat, $10 million, $30 million, $50 million, $10 million. There is so much money, and the elites are so strong and so powerful. It's the, I mean, why did the French Revolution occur? Many, many reasons, mostly financial. But part of the reason was the aristocracy was so different than the working class and looked upon them with such disdain that they became, less than human. And, it didn't play out well for the aristocracy. And it didn't play out well for the middle class either, as it happened. Yeah, I don't want that to happen. Not in my lifetime, certainly, and certainly not my daughter's lifetime.
But yeah.
Money's curse. May you live in interesting times, and we've certainly lived through a bunch of interesting times, and it's going to continue to be interesting. So, I think what you hold on to is like, people are good, do take ability, and cards you're dealt with, and look forward to the future.